So last night, Billy and I had a heart-to-heart conversation. Then one thing led to another, and he finally opened up to letting me rearrange his insides. And I have to say, Billy is packing quite a lot of emotional weight underneath that mask. Now don't get it twisted. I'm not the fun police where I'll clock another character's unresolved trauma or whatnot. Okay, I probably will do that in a bit, but trust me, my main goal is to do the opposite from just bringing doom and gloom here. Billy is one of those characters who isn't hard to love. The more you get to know him, the easier it is to fall for his stupid little charms. And as always, it got me wondering why. Is it only his silliness and coolness that makes people so easily drawn to him? Of course not. I believe we all have our own different reasons, and feel free to tell yours in the comments. What I'm about to share is just one of mine. I chose this angle because I think it speaks to something a lot of us deal with. Whether you've been a Billy fan since day one or you're only just getting to know him, take a seat because we're about to witness the story of a great hero who just so happens to be a robot, teaching us what it means to be human. But first, of course, I like to thank my kittens who helped vote for today's topic. Much love for the support you guys give me, whether you're a member or even just being here. Billy was a monster. No, I'm not talking about his detachable phallus, but how people used to portray him. From what we know about Billy's earliest records, he was made from lost technology, presumably from the old civilization, and was found near the Outer Ring Lost Tech ruins. After wandering with a group of drifters for some time, he was sold to the leader of Calydon, which was Caesar's dad. That was when he was given the name Billy, along with the role of Calydon's champion. If it wasn't already obvious, yes, Billy was the one who carried Outer Ring's red scarf before Lighter did. But compared to Lighter, who's seen more as an admirable fighter, Billy's reputation was far more frightening and quite infamous, actually. Even his old form looked terrifying. People describe him as nothing more than a weapon with firepower, carrying out his master's orders and eliminating anyone who stood in their way. Be it monstrous form as the Calydon Reaper or the first champion, both versions of him were remembered only through fear and strength. Unfortunately, after his master went missing and the Calydon gang split apart, Billy was left aimless again. He stayed with Big Daddy, who led the Sons of Calydon at that time, and after a while, they decided to let go of Billy. With his newfound freedom, Billy made his way to New Eridu, became a citizen, and eventually found a new home with the Cunning Heirs. But as interesting as Billy's backstory already is, what's more compelling is understanding why this battle android built for violence chooses to be so goofy and unserious. So let's talk a bit about his personality. Hi, just a little interruption. If you're enjoying the video so far, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who also enjoys overthinking fictional people. Videos like this take a ton of research, writing, and editing to put together, and your support is literally what allows me to keep making them. Thank you so much, and back to the video. At first glance, he is funny because he's silly, but as we look closer, Billy is someone who's loyal and deeply attached to the people and things he cares about. I think the word kid in his name doesn't just reflect his childish personality. Despite being built as a weapon, Billy still has this childlike innocence and a pure heart. He doesn't easily hold grudges against people, despite how poorly he's treated by Nicole every now and then, and he helps others without asking anything in return. And part of that is why he stays with the Cunning Heirs, even though they are constantly broke as hell and always on the run. In this broke little found family, Billy finally gets the space to just be Billy. Because even though the Outer Ring was where he got his name Billy, no one really called him that in the legends. They just reduced him to his terrifying forms under different titles. The Wasteland was blinded by his raw strength that they didn't even realize both of those figures were the exact same guy. Now, he isn't anyone's asset or weapon anymore. He gets to forge his own identity alongside people people who actually understand what it's like to be aimless with a complicated past. But that childlike innocence goes even deeper than his loyalty and affability. It's his ability to find joy in the simplest things, which of course brings us to his unhinged obsession with Starlight Knight. In my previous Intelligent Constructs video, I did briefly mention his Starlight Knight obsession as one of the signs of his personhood and why he could pass the forbidden fruit test. I hope that answers Cecia's question, by the way. Here, I'd like to highlight that the key to understand why Billy's interest in Starlight Knight became such an integral part of his personality lies in how Intelligent Construct memory works. For most humans, our brains have the capability to use forgetfulness as a defense mechanism. Motivational forgetting, for instance, is a concept of the brain's tendency to increase forgetting of memories that cause distress or anxiety to shield us from emotional pain and staying sane. Recent studies suggest that forgetting is a form of learning. Our minds selectively make certain memories harder to access based on environmental relevance. And consequently, it helps us prioritize, think better, make decisions, and be more creative. Another related phenomenon is called dissociative amnesia, where it goes beyond forgetfulness to memory loss. Here, the mind actively blocks access to memories tied to trauma or severe stress, and it isn't because of physical brain damage, but rather, again, a coping mechanism taken to the extreme to protect us. When we look in this way, it turns out forgetting is not merely a flaw in human memory. It is, to some extent, a survival luxury, a functional and adaptive feature that helps us keep going. But of course, this is not universally applied for everyone. Trauma itself can disrupt the brain's memory regulation. For example, people with PTSD are associated with traumatic memories that may stay vivid, intrusive, and hard to suppress. This disorder can keep the body's fight or flight stress response switched on even when there's no real danger to run from. So even for humans, memory can become unbearable when forgetting fails. So imagine how heavy that burden is for intelligent constructs who do not have such mechanism in the first place. And this in turn makes it challenging for them to even manage emotions. Unless being forcibly removed, their logic cores keep everything stored as data, ready to replay in 4K the moment something triggers it. So when that memory comes from a violent past that no longer matches who they are now, moving on is not as simple as letting time pass. And this is what Arya was afraid of. As memories of her violent past resurfaced and weighed on her logic core, she began to feel like a ticking time bomb, scared that one day she might lose control and succumb to the instincts she was built with. So to cope with this, Arya handles her past by trying to bury it completely. She hides her mechanical combat origins so she can present herself as a cheerful human idol. However, the root of the problem is that she couldn't erase what she was built for and used to be. And so the more she buried those memories, the more they destabilized her. It was only with Avery's help that Arya could finally confront those painful memories stored in her logic core and rewrite them into a new meaning. In contrast, Billy doesn't hide his mechanical nature and is even proud of it. But that doesn't mean he isn't affected by his past. The fact that he avoids talking about it, distances himself from becoming the old Billy during Caledon days, and throws himself so deeply into Starlight Knight suggests that he is also trying to build a new self over the old one. Arya and Billy present themselves differently, yet at its core, both are actively creating new meanings and new memories strong enough to drown the past they were made from. So for Billy, as much as it's his source of entertainment, engaging with Starlight Knight media and turning that heroic fantasy into his whole personality is a conscious action. He consumes everything that the show has to offer, striking poses and memorizing every line. It's like he's creating a continuous digital loop, flooding his processor with better memory files so the old ones don't get to take over. In a way, Starlight Knight becomes his firewall. But it isn't just there to block bad memories. It also helps to develop Billy's moral compass. Starlight Knight becomes the source code he chooses for himself, teaching him what justice looks like and how to use power with good intention. Like when Proxy asked him about the powerful laser eyes the first champion used to have, his mind goes to something wholesome. Whether he could nerf those powers into light bulbs wattage to help his teammates during a power outage. Ultimately, it's a form of freedom for Billy. In the Outer Ring, he was just a piece of property, hard-coded to eliminate threats. But Starlight Knight represents a world that is chaotic yet hopeful, showing him that strength doesn't have to be tied to fear. So when Billy watches it and builds himself around it, he isn't just, escaping reality. He is rebelling against the reality he was designed for. His old form may have been stronger, but it wasn't who he wanted to be anymore, and it is far from what he stands for today. All of this leads him towards his latest form, as Billy. It's the culmination of the identity Billy chose for himself. Even his impatience to get those expensive new upgrades came from wanting to help Proxy recover the W engine. It proves how sincere Billy's intentions are. His heart is in the right place, even when his financial decisions are clearly not. At the end of the day, he wants to be someone people can rely on. The old Billy was remembered for being formidable through sheer power alone. But now, S. Billy is about choosing what that power is for. And here's the crazy part. Starlight Knight was actually inspired by Billy himself. His latest form is revealed to resemble the original prototype for the core aspiration knight. The original director of Starlight Knight apparently based the series on a construct who rescued him from a hollow in the Outer Ring. And that construct being described sounds a lot like old Billy. So based on Billy's appearance and heroic presence back then, that encounter became the inspiration for the very first Starlight Knight. So we've actually come full circle of Billy's story. Billy spent all this time chasing a hero that was born from himself, a reflection of the goodness he already had. But no matter how much evidence the narrative gives us that Billy is already a hero, Billy himself still doesn't see it yet. I've said this before, that Billy usually acts like he's so full of himself, but truthfully, he's very self-aware. Even after watching Starlight Knight 100 times, brainwashing his systems with cartoon idealism to keep the bad memories silent, Billy is still trying to figure out what a knight truly is. His idea of heroism is mostly shaped by Starlight Knight, which, let's be real, is not exactly ideal for realistic standards. So in his mind, a hero might be someone who is inherently good and righteous from the very beginning. But Billy knows his origin story. He wasn't created from pure goodness, but built and used as a mere weapon. And this is where it all loops back. He keeps dodging his past because he wants the legendary hero version of himself to be born from justice, with clean history records separating from what he was made to before. Again, we could all sit Billy down, tie him up Jabari style, and tell him that he doesn't need to doubt himself. He has already saved many people and used his strength for good. That alone is enough to call him a hero. But I want to talk about something beyond fighting the bad guys, because what makes Billy heroic to me isn't just that he protects people in battle. Remember how I said he finds joy in the simplest things? Out of everything, Billy chooses a kids show as the thing to resist from becoming a cold machine he was built to be. Whether it's intentional or not, he's He's always the one breaking the tension when things get heavy. His silliness and the way the game portrays him is the ultimate statement on the necessity of not taking life too seriously. Billy's ability to contemplate and struggles with his own identity shows that his unseriousness isn't a lack of awareness, but a refusal to let a grim world turn him cold. It takes less effort to look at a broken reality and become cynical and detached. It's why many villains are so easily created from the same cause, and that's what Billy agrees on too. But it takes an incredible amount of courage to look at that same heavy reality and choose to be light and stay hopeful instead. And for Billy, that bridge to cross from being just a cold weapon driven by his mechanical instincts or the harsh reality around him to a living soul is through play. By literal definition, play means engaging in an activity for enjoyment. It seems trivial, but it's more than that. Play is anything we do with joy and freedom without needing it to be productive and useful. Be it role-playing, creating, making a dumb joke, or obsessing over something we love, as long as it's something that makes us feel good. But if play is how Billy rejects his identity as a mechanical weapon, why should this matter to humans like us? Because being human doesn't mean we're living like one. Centuries before, Friedrich Schiller argued, man only plays when he is in the fullest sense of the word a human being, and he is only fully a human being when he plays. What Schiller meant is that human beings are constantly pulled between two conflicting sides, our rigid rational minds and our immediate physical instincts. He argued that if we only lived by pure logic and rules, we aren't fully human. We become cold, unfeeling machines. But if we only live by our raw instincts, we are just animals reacting to our environment. We only achieve our full humanity when these two sides find a perfect balance. And Schiller's big realization was that play is the unique bridge that connects them. It's like a buffer where our thinking mind and our feeling instincts stop fighting, allowing us to experience true internal freedom. We may not be tactical constructs with weapon limbs, but we do live in a world that constantly pushes us to become machines. Hustle culture, locking in the pressure to optimize every single hour of our day, monetize our hobbies into side hustles, daily mindless routine, and treating our own bodies like they're easily replaceable. Then when we look at the news every single day, it feels like we are drowning in bleak headlines, economic pressure, and this overwhelming sense of global anxiety. And to escape that feeling of helplessness, we get hardened on the outside and numb on the inside. Honestly, I can feel it too sometimes, like my empathy is slowly slipping away because caring about everything all the time feels exhausting. And I don't like how it's gotten to a point where it's affecting my relationship with others as well. It also doesn't help that society has gotten really good at ridiculing people for simply having fun. Enjoying something too much becomes cringe. Being excited becomes embarrassing. Loving something sincerely becomes something you have to defend. Why have we normalized guilt to simply have joy? The current state of our world pushes us into this state of constant seriousness, which can take a real toll on our well-being and mental health. And this leads to a finding that sounds counterintuitive at first. The opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is depression. That quote comes from Dr. Stuart Brown's landmark research into how play shapes the brain. Far from standing in opposition to each other, work and play are actually mutually supportive. He discovered that play is the primary way our brains maintain emotional resilience. He studied everyone from hyper-successful executives to creative professionals who slowly cut out silly things to be more mature and responsible, only to find themselves becoming more stuck in life. What he found is that when you strip play out of a human being, our minds drop into a state of cognitive rigidity. We can become defensive, angry, and hostile, where he describes this as an intense but unconscious defensiveness. Additionally, some people react with outright hostility to play and feel threatened by it. We also begin to lose our creativity and sense of hope. Over the long haul, when these vital spice of life elements are missing from our life, what is left behind is a dulled soul. We might not literally become cold, lifeless machines one day, but what is a human soul without vitality? It's no different than a cold, lifeless machine. Of course, I'd like to point out that depression is closer to the extreme end of the spectrum. Not everyone who takes life too seriously will automatically become depressed, but it's proven how play is one way we keep ourselves from slipping into that dark pit. And the path toward that end often shows up in signs we tend to overlook. We become narrower, more bitter, and more judgmental. Dr. Stuart acknowledges that play deprivation is further exacerbated by shame from a culture that treats play as childish or unproductive. And this speaks to a lot of us in fandom spaces and hobby communities nowadays, where people can turn enjoyment into unnecessary toxicity, moral policing, where every choice is treated as a political or ethical test rather than a shared playful experience. And then there's people who will vehemently disagree with you because you're not playing the game correctly on their standards. The main point of playing is to have fun regardless how you play it, and not to prove your intelligence or single-handedly raise the company's revenue. I know I'm guilty of this too, especially when I catch myself getting agitated for no reason and realizing I'm taking this shit way too seriously. Suddenly, all the different opinions and criticisms about something I enjoy start sounding more like outside noise trying to pull me out of the joy of it. Why am I letting these people influence me into writing a moral or biological dissertation about two hot fictional men banging? I am not saying you don't need to be critical anymore, but if every space is filled with discourse, then where exactly are we supposed to play? Where do we get to be unserious? Where do we get to like something just because it makes us happy? Where do we get to enjoy fictional characters, dumb jokes, ships, headcanons, edits, memes, and all the brain rot without feeling like we're walking into court? I sound mad, don't I? Well, that's the cost of me having to be too serious. Point is, in any aspect of our lives, without goofing around, being whimsical, and adding some little humor, we become rigid long enough before we realize we're numb. But kid, what if I'm already depressed? Well, first of all, opening Zenless Zone Zero right after this and hoping it cures you definitely won't. Those disrolls might make you need another therapist and support group. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that play isn't a sole thing that can cure you and is definitely not a replacement for professional help. This video is not me saying, go watch a kid show and your depression will be gone. Trust, if only it were that easy, my yaoi stash would have cured me years ago. I'm no medical professional, but coming from someone who had depression, this video is a gentle nudge to remind us to just try something rather than to continue paralyzing ourselves. I know it's already exhausting when people give you a definitive checklist on how to fix your life, and more often it's alienating because most of it assumes you already have the energy to begin with, bringing back that exact same grind mindset. Like suddenly, self-care itself becomes another thing you have to perform correctly. And sometimes you just want a break from taking a break. And I get it, depression can take the spark out of the things you used to love. So I don't mean to force yourself to suddenly to enjoy life on command, but look at it as a way to give yourself the smallest possible opening for joy to come back in, even if it feels awkward or barely there at first. I do believe there is something powerful in choosing one small thing instead of nothing. That thing doesn't need to have a meaning or a purpose. Just one stupid little joy, one same old comfort show, one game, whether it demands your entire brain power or just brain rot slop, one joke, whether it's funny or not, one harmless obsession that reminds you you're still here, alive, and still capable of feeling something, even if it's tiny. Soon enough, perhaps, no, I hope it becomes the thing that makes you anticipate tomorrow and slowly opens your heart to take another little step toward feeling better. That's mostly what I get from Billy whenever he shows up on screen. Almost every scene he's in feels fun, and he never fails to make me laugh or have a little chuckle at least. The tension I felt before sort of fizzles out whenever he shows up, because again, his whole personality is basically telling us to take a chill pill and stop taking everything so seriously. Billy shows us that, just like him, you don't need to have your life completely figured out, and you don't need to be a flawless hero or a successful person to deserve joy. Remember that play isn't something we only get as a reward after working our ass off. To have joy is our birthright. So keep on playing, goof around, and mostly keep that inner child of yours alive. It's a lifelong necessity. Even if you're reaching 30, 40, or 80 years old, just keep on doing what brings you joy and feel like a kid again. I don't care if you're pushing 40 and still collecting figurines, cosplaying, writing fanfiction, or whatever fun activity normies do if you are one. Make time for it, always. It may not fix everything. I mean, Billy's still broke, but it does prove the darkness hasn't won you over yet. The ultimate message is that Billy's admiration for Starlight Knight and his pursuit of becoming one is something we can learn from if we want to live more fully. We might not need to go out and buy a red scarf and a mask or scream catchphrases, but becoming a Starlight Knight means finding our own version of that pure joy and learning to protect it. In a world that is constantly grinding us down, holding onto that one piece of fun isn't just a distraction from reality, but the very thing keeping us human. Not all heroes beat every single enemy before them. Some heroes help you beat depression, the anxiety creeping in, and plant a little seed of hope saying, hey, things are shit right now, but unclench, you're still here. And one of those heroes is Billy. As the saying goes, everyone needs a silly in their life. I think it's very ironic to say don't take things too seriously while taking it very seriously in this video. We can't argue, Billy's character isn't that deep anyways, but that's literally the point. I'm just here laying out the evidence. Maybe we should apply some of that simplicity to real life too. You know, not everything is worth overthinking, and sometimes even serious things need a more playful mind. So turn down the noise, give yourself a break, and just go do some stupid shit that makes you smile. As long as it doesn't harm you though. That is all I have to offer for today, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.